All right, let's talk about something that happens to millions of us every single day, a kind of invisible crime that we never even report. We're going to pull back the curtain on what we're calling the dopamine heist.
So let me start with a question that might feel a little familiar. You ever have something really important to do, something you know matters, but when you sit down to do it, it just feels bland, kind of gray, like trying to get excited about eating stale toast? Yeah, let's get to the bottom of why that happens.
So first, let's give this weird feeling a name. We're going to call it the cardboard feeling. You know that sense that makes the stuff that should be meaningful feel completely flat and uninteresting?
I mean, picture this scenario. You probably don't have to try too hard. A big project is staring you in the face. You know you got to do it, but you pick up your phone. You tell yourself, oh, just for a minute, and then an hour disappears. When you finally look up from the screen and back at that project, it just feels impossible, totally dull. Sound about right?
You know, the first place our brains go is to blame ourselves. We think, oh, I'm just so lazy, or I have zero discipline. But what if it's not a character flaw at all? What if something else is going on under the hood that we don't see?
This is where we have to totally reframe the problem. This isn't about laziness, it's about a heist. A very clever crime that's happening right inside your own head.
You see, that feeling of being stuck, of not being able to tackle that big project, it's not a failure of your willpower. It's the neurological crime scene. It's the aftermath of a heist you didn't even realize was taking place.
So in this heist, what's the stolen asset? What's the valuable that's been taken? It's your motivation. And let's be super clear here. We're not talking about happiness. We're talking about the raw fuel, the chemical engine that drives you to chase after your goals. We're talking about ambition itself.
So to really understand this crime, we've got to understand the currency that's being stolen. And that brings us to the star of our show, a little chemical you've definitely heard of, but maybe not quite in this way. Let's talk about the motivation molecule.
Now, most of us have been told that dopamine is the pleasure molecule. You do something fun, you get a hit of dopamine, you feel good. But that's not the whole story. It's much more accurate to call it the motivation molecule. It's less about the feeling of reward and more about the anticipation, the drive, the craving that makes you go get the reward in the first place. It's the chemical in your brain that says, hey, go get that thing.
And here is the absolute key. Dopamine is the currency your brain spends to fund effort. Think of it like a budget. If you want to climb a mountain or finish a tough project, your brain has to spend a little dopamine to make it feel worth doing. If there's no dopamine payout, there's no drive. It's that simple.
Okay, so if motivation is the asset and dopamine is the currency, then who are the thieves? And what are their tools? Well, let's take a look at the mechanics of this heist. And it turns out it works a lot like a digital slot machine.
The tools of the trade are brilliantly effective. First, you've got the infinite scroll, which makes sure there's never a natural stopping point. Then you have unpredictable rewards, a funny meme, a surprising video, which keeps you pulling that lever, swiping that screen, just to see what you'll get next. And of course, the knockout punch. Instant gratification. The reward is right here, right now. And this all creates a dangerously perfect loop. It starts with a simple cue. You feel just a little bit bored. That triggers the action. You grab your phone and start scrolling. Then comes the reward. Bam! An amazing video gives you a little jolt of easy dopamine. Your brain absolutely loves this. And the result? That whole pathway gets reinforced, making it even more likely you'll do it again next time. It becomes automatic.
So, now let's connect all the dots. Let's bring it back to that stale toast feeling. What actually happens to your ambition and your brain in the aftermath of this constant low-grade digital heist?
Well, when you're scrolling, your brain is just being flooded with these cheap, easy hits of dopamine. It's like winning a penny on a slot machine, over and over and over. What this does is it artificially raises your baseline for what your brain considers rewarding. It's like the volume knob for excitement gets cranked way, way up, and all of a sudden, normal everyday activities sound totally quiet and boring.
And this chart just lays the problem bare. I mean, just look at the massive dopamine payoff from something like scrolling social media, and then compare it to the slow, steady, and much smaller reward from actually finishing a piece of work. It's not even a fair fight.
So after hitting that digital jackpot all day, your brain looks at the tiny little payoff from doing real work, and it just can't get excited. The motivation isn't there because the reward seems tiny in comparison. That's why your important project feels like stale toast. It's not that the work is inherently boring, it's that your brain's entire reward system has been temporarily hijacked.
So, what's the real price we're paying here? When our attention gets caught in this loop, what's actually being stolen from us?
Look, the most important thing to take away from this is that it's not about feeling guilty. This isn't just another reason to beat yourself up for procrastinating. It's about recognizing that there's a powerful system out there, designed by incredibly smart people, that is specifically engineered to kidnap your ambition. This is a predictable neurological consequence, not a personal failing.
And that leads us to the final question, the one for you to really think about. Your ambition, your drive, your motivation to build the life you actually want, that's one of the most valuable assets you have. It's the gold in your vault. So the question is, who are you letting rob it?